Greetings, programs. This is Wretch. Welcome back to Supposedly Wonderful Future. And in the last episode, we had a very interesting moral quandary we needed to take care of regarding Mitty and Mitty's mother/daughter. I think we made the right call, though, and now we're in the middle of our debrief. Let's go ahead and keep going. By the way, if the music or everything sounds a little bit different, my recording software upgraded and changed some settings, and I'm just trying to find the comfortable middle, so I apologize if something sounds different. So her mother did have Alzheimer's disease. Yes. And she was old. Yes. Does that mean she couldn't afford your immortality? No. Maybe she just decided not to do it. Decided not to be immortal? Maybe. Or maybe she was planning to do it later on. The renewal can't make you young again. It can only maintain your age. So as long as you're not too old for the procedure, a couple of years won't make much difference. 63 or 65, it doesn't really matter. Still, the risk probably increases with each passing year. If she went through the renewal as soon as possible, maybe none of this would have happened. That only makes sense in retrospective. There are less known but equally ruthless illnesses that target young people or people in their prime, or accidents that has nothing to do with your age. You can't really predict the killing blow. You just take your chances. Is that so? I'm sure it's easy to overlook that your renewal is only available to those who can pay for it. Well, what do you want from me? Of course it costs money, and of course it's not that simple. We try to make it as cheap as we can, as accessible in every part of the world as we can. Some people still can't afford that. Then again, some people don't even want it. They shove it back in our face and die with a smile on their lips, pitying us. And so humanity gets another way to split into us and them. Another way to start hating each other. No, that is not how it goes. This dystopia exists only in the minds of those who want to believe in it. I can guarantee that much. I don't know about that. Alright, well, I have another question. I don't understand how surgery could screw up her mind in such a strange way. I'm no neurosurgeon myself, but I'm pretty sure any treatment of Alzheimer's late stages must include some memory-related manipulation because recollections are already affected by the disease. Some say it's still a volatile process that can, in rare cases, spiral out of control and just unhinge things instead of ordering them. Then again, the human mind always tries to make sense of stuff, even if working with completely irrational data. Being a little girl was probably the most reasonable conclusion for the remaining mess. The woman said that the surgery had a 90% chance of success. Is it for real? Of course. They don't take the numbers off the top of their heads. I'm sure it's as accurate as any calculated probability can be today. They're very precise computer simulations of medical procedures to give you a representative sample even before first volunteers come through your door. It means that 9 out of every 10 patients are cured. Nothing less. But that's really unlucky. Mathematically speaking, it has nothing to do with luck. Speaking as a human being, though, yeah, it sucks. But our doctors make sure to carry the message across. They'll never accept anybody for experimental treatment unless they completely understand the meaning behind the numbers. That woman knew the risks. Then why did she agree? Because the alternative was even worse. Can you really blame her? If you could see probabilities of your daily activities, how many 90% chances would you take each day? 80% chances? 70% chances? People are going with such risks all the time, or people are going with such risks all the time, and then some. We just hope that the dice roll favors us, but it doesn't have to. The dice doesn't care about us much at all. Well, maybe there are forces behind the dice that do. Yeah, maybe. But apparently, even they decided not to help her. I got to admit, though, she really put me off with her hatred for kids. Oh, I can give you some context for that. She has a grown-up son, but their relationship's a mess. They haven't talked once in about 10 years. Ooh. That bad, huh? It's very bad from what I could gather. The fact that she hates her son's guts was probably the most consistent thing the doctors heard from her. As for the son, they tried to contact him many times to no avail. I also called him myself, but he just said he doesn't care in the most casual voice possible. I didn't back down right after that, of course, but in the end my convincing skills were clearly insufficient. So it was a coping mechanism. And a very effective one. All her hard work at raising another person amounted to nothing, so she threw away the whole idea and decided that it's a waste of time anyway. She also embraced the promise of scientific immortality. Sadly for her, immortality is still hiding around the corner. But that still doesn't justify the hatred. And it's just her way to deal with it, Michael. When they broke up for good, she started with denial, and then she cemented this denial by thinking that raising kids is someone's cruel joke. She said some nasty things since then, and it is tempting to hate her, but remember that cruel words often come from those who feel hurt the most. Is there anything about that woman's life that doesn't scream drama? There is. She's from a small but wealthy family, and they traveled all around the world when she was younger. She had a happy marriage that ended in divorce, but a surprisingly peaceful, let's remain friends divorce. It's very easy to perceive a mixed bag of life as predominantly happy or predominantly sad. So, what happens now? Now we can try to relax. One of our employees will come and show you the way to the cafeteria, where you can experience our fine futuristic cuisine. I'm kidding, it's not really futuristic, just a bit more fusionist, maybe. You gonna join me? Maybe we could chat about some less work-related themes. No, sorry. I kinda just eat sandwiches right here during projects while I keep looking at the files. There's usually so much left to prepare and finalize, I wouldn't have enough time if I was chilling at the cafeteria. Sounds like you're really busy. Well, I signed up for it, and I knew beforehand that I won't be getting much help with all this secrecy about time traveling and stuff. It's alright. I enjoy a frantic pace every once in a while. Makes you feel alive. Very tired, but alive. Yeah, that's familiar. But we can definitely have a more casual chat if you'd like. That's a time that won't be wasted. Take an elevator back after you finish. Chances are I'll still be around working. Just don't forget to check your room first. My room? Shouldn't you drive me to a hotel for the night? We have rooms right here. They're hotel rooms for all intents and purposes, only you can keep an eye on me 24/7. Yes. Also, we won't waste time on transportation, so there will be more left for sleep. Are these Life Plus offices? Yes, we're currently on the 29th floor of our corporate headquarters. This is our base of operations for the rest of the project. Here we can discuss our work in the evening and have briefings in the morning. There'll be some of the latter too, I promise. Can I wander around the rest of the building? No, sorry. You only have access to this floor and the floor below, where your room and the cafeteria are. I can just press a different button in the elevator, you know. You certainly can. It'll scan your fingerprint, check it with our systems for security clearance, and refuse to move. How do you even have my fingerprints? We took it from an old database. Something about a trip to Brazil? It's not easy to exist in the 21st century without leaving your fingers behind. But they said they delete them after the visit. I imagine they tried, but you know how hard it is to completely delete something. So I'm safely locked up at all times. Please don't take it the wrong way. Each person you interact with is another chance of affecting this timeline, and therefore another set of complex calculations for us. We just have to keep it manageable. What about people at the cafeteria? There's nobody around there at this hour, and the service is automated. Actually, the place is hardly used at all. I don't even remember which one of the execs insisted that folks from the top floors need their own place to chow, but clearly it wasn't a very good idea. Yeah, right. Oh, there's also an access point in your room, so you can go online if you want. You know, read the news, visit websites. There's one daily newspaper I put in your favorites. It's reasonably good. Better than my convoluted explanations anyway. Wait, hold on a second. One does not simply give me access to the internet of the future and then expect that I will spend more time on sleep. I'm sure you can find a reasonable balance. Fair enough. Shall I go then? Sure. And thank you for today, really. This might be our most ambitious and exciting project to date, and I'm grateful that you've agreed to make it possible. Have a good night. Interesting fashion choice in the future, I have to say. Chicken chow mein. Kung pao potatoes? Ooh. Egg fried rice with prawns and peas. Ugh. You were doing good. You had me at the kung pao potatoes. You lost me there. Thai-style fish cakes with cucumber relish. Spare rib soup with watercress and apricot kernels. 11-ounce top sirloin steak with sautéed mushrooms, glazed carrots, onion rings, and curry sauce. Yeah, this is all much better reading than a certain booklet about a certain medicine that's still assaulting your mental well-being somewhere deep inside. You go through the menu 2 more times before pressing the buttons on a place your order terminal, settling on some pizza. Wow. The next 30 minutes pass in contemplative chewing as you dine alone in a hall full of unused tables. Upon exiting the cafeteria, you're greeted by the same Life Plus employee who showed you the way here earlier. He gestures toward the passage ahead, inviting you to follow him. You make a feeble attempt at small talk while the two of you walk through the empty corridors, but all your questions get deflected with polite suggestions to consult the project manager. A few minutes later, you open another door and find yourself in a small hotel-type room. This is where you're supposed to rest and sleep before plunging into the unknown again. Okay, so we got our bed. We got some art on the wall. Fruit. A clock. And that must be the internet. Oh. A little corridor leads to the exit from your room in the spacious hallways of Life Plus headquarters, all but deserted at this hour. From there, you can go back up to the lobby where you were before the dinner. Let's stay here for a moment. The modern art. The coffee cup is undoubtedly the centerpiece of this composition, capturing the mood of a fulfilling breakfast before a productive and eventful day. However, it's the glass of water that makes this work truly remarkable. A puzzled viewer might ask, why is it standing there? Don't coffee and water both count as drinks in a traditional meal structure, and therefore serve roughly the same purpose? Why would you need 2 different drinks at the same time? Or could it be the unnamed hero of this work hasn't decided on a beverage yet? Could it be that the glass of water represents a choice? The morning cup looks inviting and alluring, but does your body really need caffeine right now? Is that fleeting surge of energy worth disrupting your inner clock for? The nature spent millions of dollars perfecting circadian rhythms, and now you're going to mess with it just to feel a bit less sleepy? Perhaps we should listen to our bodies and respect their phases instead of forcing them to keep up with the frantic pace of modern society. Perhaps we should realize that the choices hidden around us, sometimes behind a thing so simple as a glass of water, are more important than we think. This is refreshing in a number of ways. Man, he has a lot to say about art. I like how down-to-earth the future of design turned out to be. It's always nice when the culture of aesthetics is recognizing the real values in life. Waterfalls and rainbows may be pretty, but they seriously lack nutrition value. Hey, maybe one of my lunches is now hanging in someone's living room? Because I used to post a lot of them on Instagram. The people of the future have spoken. They choose simplicity. The people who decorated this room, anyway. You think this stuff is paid by food service distributors? It's a very shrewd form of advertising, making people glance at your products for hours on end. Food for thoughts, thoughts for food. That actually is true. Oh. Well, that's neat. 29 degrees clear. That must be Celsius. The internet! This is a small screen. Scanning biometrics. Loading user settings. Welcome to America Online. The Daily Insight, Monday, July 20th, 2048. Is that Rutger Hauer? No, it's not. Actually, kind of looks like the G-Man from Half-Life. Mr. Freeman. Quantifiable World by Jessica Green. When I was born, the world was a chaotic, volatile, and dangerous place. We were fragile creatures susceptible to abrupt and sudden ending. Accidents happened, diseases emerged, wars struck, casualty reports filled evening news, and all we could hope for is that our names are not mentioned there anytime soon. Some were lucky, others not so much. Tomorrow was a mystery, fairness, naive concept. Then I got involved in one of the greatest inventions of humanity, education, and found out that these fragile creatures made some pretty extraordinary things. I fell in love with math. The world of numbers is fair. Every situation is described with equations, and all equations can be solved. When a systems model is built and all variables are taken into account, an optimal solution can be reached. There's no blind luck in math, no unfair randomness, only things we are. Can we... Oh, we can... Man, okay. No fair or unfair randomness, only things we are yet to understand and solve. And then it was time to go back. Taking the math you learned in the comfort of a classroom and applying it to the real world is all about limitations. Complexity started to creep in. There were always too many factors, too many unknown variables to model anything with reasonable precision. Choices were made and the blind consequences were piling up. And eventually my variability of independent decision-making started to feel worthless. Chaos triumphed once again. Humanity tried to cope with this predicament for as long as it existed. Some thought supernatural explanations and declared the concept of destiny, claiming that accidents were not accidents but acts of God, a higher power that has a plan and can provide meaning to seemingly pointless events. Others tried to embrace the uncertainty and find beauty in the grand scheme of things. Surely our lives are valuable regardless of how inherently random everything is. They must be. None succeeded in improving their odds and figuring out how they did so. The perception of the problem was addressed thoroughly. The solution to the problem was nowhere to be seen. But then something else happened. As the science kept marching on, we realized that maybe we could deal with such complexity after all. In truth, that divide between the classroom and the real world exists only in our minds, because life is a system. Everything is a system. Too many variables? Let them come. We could evaluate them one by one, building up the model of our world as we went along and then reusing it by pieces. We had sophisticated algorithms. We had computational power. We had machines that bordered on true intelligence. And slowly but surely, we prevailed. The math of causality was cracked. It didn't happen all of a sudden, of course. One should know that there are no eureka moments, only years of careful and continuous research. And it wasn't 100% complete either. Science would not be science if it wasn't ready to accept its limitations. Even now our solutions are just approximations that are getting more and more precise. But for a mere kid like me who already forgotten most of her numerical analysis, it sure looked like somebody hit a switch and let the light pour into the room. Suddenly, probabilities became part of everyday life, just like time displayed on your phone or a number of calories on a pack of that delicious snack. Checking your chances to have a safe ride home, or to get stuck in a traffic jam, or even to pick up that pretty girl next door was as mundane as checking your emails. But it's amazing how easily people discard something once it's already achieved. An opposition appeared and settled in. They claimed it's simply not right to rely on this new technology so much. Playing it safe is boring, they said. You shouldn't try to predict everything, they said. Just take your chances, man. Risk is the spice of life, they said. Today, simple living is in trend. Feel the feels, go with the flow, embrace our nature. The guidelines that many people mistake for a call to be foolishly reckless. It's funny. The culture of nerds came and won many years ago, yet checking your chances before doing something risky with your teenage friends is now met with the same stigma as reading a lot of books or enjoying math classes was a long time ago. Stop obsessing over numbers, girl. Come on, let's get a life by drinking ourselves to death. Apparently, chaos hasn't played its hand yet. Now it's trying to regain the lost ground by calling to our irrational human nature. Well, call me old-fashioned, but I love numbers. I love to quantify stuff. I love when everything around me is evaluated and calculated, because that's how you make sense of it all. I don't want to feel the feels for 2 days and then die in a car accident. I want to feel the feels for as many days as I could possibly squeeze into my life. Call me old-fashioned, but I don't want to be a leaf on the wind. Watch how I don't want to serve chaos. I want to tame it. And we did tame it. Now we just need to keep moving forward. When I was born, the world was an unfair place, but it's much better now. The numbers helped us make it so. And for a kid who fell in love with math, that's kind of a big deal. Jessica Green is an acclaimed blogger and columnist who may have solved too many differential equations in her turbulent youth before settling down in the world of journalism, and who's been sharing her vision with our readers ever since. For information and guidelines on how probability can help you in everyday life, please visit Check Your Chances. Which I cannot. I know that was a lot of reading, guys, but these are some interesting, How long are these articles? Yowza. Story of the day, rapture, rejection, confusion, and fear. That sounds interesting. Oh. Keep on exiting out of the game there because of the edge. I mean, it's not horrible. I mean, we can read these. Let's go ahead and read the main thing here with this interesting picture. The many faces of the century's most remarkable breakthrough. On a rainy day in November 2033, 20 people walked into a medical facility in Singapore. Handpicked by a team of Life Plus scientists from thousands of volunteers who responded to the call, they underwent an experimental procedure that promised something the world had never seen before. 15 years later, none of them is aged a day. 15 years later, they are joined by hundreds of thousands of others who exhibit the same results, while humanity keeps incredulously asking itself the same question. Did we just cheat death? So 5 didn't. That's not 90%. Cells and tissue renewal process, as it came to be known, looks pretty mundane on the outside. An injection here, a couple of pills there, some time to observe the readings. A few days on a hospital bed and you're free to go. But the results are downright miraculous. The important thing to understand is that aging is not some integral element of our body. Rather, it's a consequence of other elements failing over time, explained Jennifer Williams, a lead researcher at Life Plus Biological Division and one of the original authors of the process. This failure is not by design. It's the accumulated wear and tear that gets them. Loss of cells, tissue atrophy, toxins, waste, little things piling up as the years go by. And if we periodically clear up these things without disrupting the rest, well, there's no reason why your body can't keep functioning indefinitely, or at least for much longer than we used to think. Our biggest limitation so far, she continues, is that cleansing gets progressively harder as waste accumulates, making the process more complicated for older people. I don't want to call it irreversible damage, but it's definitely easier to prevent than to fix kind of damage. Right now you need to be below 70 to benefit from the renewal, and we also can't make you young again. We can, however, give your system enough maintenance to keep it going another decade without further complications. A decade that, from a biological perspective, won't feel like aging at all. And then you can do the procedure again. And again. And maybe you won't have to, because by then it'll be greatly improved and the effect will last much longer. I sure feel this is only a beginning. While the scientists keep polishing their masterpiece, other divisions of Life Plus started to work on distribution, dedicated to make it available in all corners of the world at the most affordable price possible. As the news spread, the world started to react. That reaction was every bit as complex as one would expect. Quickest were the voices of excitement. My brother was one of the 20 volunteers chosen for the first trial, and as the years went by, I couldn't believe my eyes, tells us Anaya Nair, who lives in Hyderabad with her still technically older brother, Aryan. It was like watching a miracle unfold. Only it wasn't created by God or nature or another force I don't understand. It was created by other human beings, by humanity, by us. Our dad is a businessman, and he's brilliant, but he's also stressed about work, and I think I picked it up from him as my default state of mind. I was always running somewhere, doing things, hurrying to experience stuff before it was too late. But now, maybe for the first time ever, I feel like I can just relax and enjoy it. It's not going anywhere. Life isn't going anywhere anymore. My only regret is that so many people of the past didn't live to see it. For some, the breakthrough bears almost sacred significance. Its unexpected arrival being a sure sign of even greater things to come. Online discussions of singularity and transhumanism are going stronger than ever. The long-awaited rapture of the nerds is declared to be finally upon us. Others prefer not to run ahead of the train, but are still understandably excited about adding years to their life. I was wondering if they could figure it out before I kick the bucket, shares his thoughts Bradley Benson, a columnist and stand-up comedian. Good job, you evil corporate bastards. You've got yourself a customer. At the same time, it didn't take long for an opposition to appear. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the idea of potentially endless life doesn't appeal to some people. This is an undoubtedly concerning discovery, says Patriarch Sergius II, leader of the Russian Orthodox Church. Our compassion, our empathy, our care for each other, our very ability to be human may be irrevocably lost if we choose this path. I fear it may be just the first of many radical developments that will take us further and further away from life as was created and envisioned by our Lord. I urge people of the world, no matter what God they believe in, to turn away from this procedure, or they may find only losses where corporations have promised them gains. However, when it comes to more practical concerns, it's hard to argue that the opponents do have a point. For one, out of more than 7 billion adults on the planet, less than 600,000 underwent the procedure. An impressive figure considering the first human trials happened merely 15 years ago, yet nowhere near enough to constitute a universal spread. A lot of people can't get it, explains Veronica Oliveira, a physician from Sao Paulo who coordinates the renewal process at a local clinic. And it's not just about the money. You have to jump through a lot of bureaucratic hoops. The higher-ups claim it's the only way to ensure order on such an unprecedented scale, but they say nothing about inequality it brings. Regional differences contribute to the problem. Each country adds its own bits to Life Plus rules, and some of them make access to renewal much more complicated. We can't even deal with the gap between rich and poor, she says. How on earth are we supposed to deal with the gap between immortal and mortal? Proponents of the process say that these are logistic problems and they can be solved. Opponents respond that even if distributed universally, this change may bring more harm than good. A frequent concern is overpopulation. To counter fewer deaths, you need fewer births, and absence of children is not exactly a way to healthy society. I was very curious about that, to tell you the truth. Some warn about collapse of the economy. If people never retire, where do you get jobs for the new ones? And if they do retire and keep on living indefinitely, where do you get money for pensions? Others worry about collapse of the culture. Can art even remain meaningful when one of the main cornerstones of storytelling, the inevitability of death, is removed? What about people who rely on it to relieve stress and keep functioning? Can lack of friction lead to some pretty fictional mental issues on a massive scale? I think Life Plus doesn't realize that their brilliant project will eventually spiral out of control, says Andrew Wu, the CEO of Biotech Engineering, a long-standing competitor of Life Plus. It's all nice and dandy now. 15 years later, when most of these people would be alive anyway, and when the big changes kick in, they'll kick in all at once. And even their resources, no, scratch that, even their resources plus our resources plus the resources of every other corporation and government in the world won't be able to hold it in check. We're simply not ready. Still, local minorities tend to appear larger than they actually are. According to Professor Kenji Takahashi from Stanford University, Department of Sociology, the most common reaction falls somewhere between cautious optimism and silent disbelief. It feels like humanity is having a collective pinch-me moment, says Takahashi. It seems too good to be true, yet it's hard to argue with the facts and the limitations. People understand they are both inevitable and solvable. It's not perfect. Nothing ever is, and nor does it have to be. But it can still make the world a better place. Perhaps the most interesting reaction of all is that of apprehension and fear. One would think that challenging the most basic, the most universal fear of all, the fear of death, would lower the levels of collective angst. Yet it seems that our worries are being merely replaced rather than alleviated. People we surveyed are frequently optimistic about specific challenges, but still say they're feeling anxious, explains Takahashi. They describe it as a sense of unease, an irrational worry that something is bound to go wrong. The great unknown may have lost some ground, but the second great unknown, our future, is all too happy to take its place. It's fascinating because it shows what an integral emotion fear is, and how deeply it's ingrained in us by evolution. He adds, if you're alive, you're afraid of something, period. Yet again, Takahashi argues that this fear should not be viewed in a negative light. Just because it's unpleasant doesn't mean we have to fight it. We should be apprehensive. That would make us cautious. And when changes are so profound, you need all the caution you can get. The important thing is to channel our worries into constructive action and keep our heads cool. The truth is, breakthroughs happen in two parts, technological and social. The first part required combined efforts of the entire scientific community, decades of research, and a fair share of luck. The second part will take no less, and it's only just begun. We need to do a lot of work before this discovery truly improves life for everyone. Then, and only then, can we claim that humanity has conquered death. Interesting. Okay, guys, well, we got two more of these articles to read. They're a lot shorter than these two, so we can get through them pretty quick, and then I'll decide where we go from there. Hope you all have enjoyed it. I'm actually really enjoying the kind of the philosophy of this future and how people are thinking, and that there are some, it's definitely not perfect, but still kind of debating how it is compared to the modern world. But anyway, if you guys enjoyed the episode, please leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, that'd be a big help. And we'll see you next time. Later days, everyone.